Hello, America. Welcome back to Maya's Politics and Survival Guide. Um, I'm here once again. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I been out in the garden today as well. Today is May the 9th. I have been gardening quite a bit the past couple of days. So, getting prepared for things. But I love to garden to begin with. One of the things I want to talk about today is, once again, the Great Depression era and what people did back during the Great Depression. I firmly believe that today we are in the beginning stages of another Great Depression, part two, and it's going to be really, really bad. So hopefully some of these hints and survival guides or things I'll be telling you will help you to try and learn to figure out how you can do best in bad situations. Now, when I was a kid, and this was passed on through my mom, my grandmother, oh my goodness, she was a stickler when it came to saving, and she knew how to save, but she also knew how to make everything good. Uh, but well, one of the things is we are pretty much in the middle of 2026, and I know Christmas is coming. And I know those who have children, they want to buy toys and gifts for them. Well, you can still do that if you shop smart, shop early, and go to yard sales and garage sales and thrift stores. You never know what you're going to find. They may not get what they want, but they will have a gift under the tree. Now, my mom, she passed down a lot of tricks and ways of saving a penny. She did more than saving a penny. Back in the Great Depression, you were counting pennies. But in today, money-wise, you're looking at dollars. So you can save a lot of dollars if you do things differently. It may not be the prettiest, but you can do things differently. Now, my mom, when she did Christmas, she always saved wrapping papers. She would literally, you did not get to just tear everything apart and ripping open up a gift. She used strings, a thin string to tie the paper around. Not tape, strings. You cut the string and you unwrapped the gift. And she would roll up or fold up the papers and reuse them for the following year. Or she would use them for a birthday gift. And I'll get back into birthdays because birthdays were a lot different for a lot of people. Now, she did that. A lot of times she would just use linen to wrap stuff in for Christmas. She would, or brown paper bags. And there was nothing wrong with it. The whole point of wrapping a gift is to let you not see what's inside the wrapping. So you don't necessarily have to have pretty paper to hide that gift. You can use a pillowcase, bed sheets, towels, brown paper bags, or recycled wrapping paper. She used paper at one time when you would go to the market and buy meat. You would get your meat wrapped up in papers, and she would ask for extra paper. And they would give it to her. And that's how she did it. Now, Christmas stockings, No, we did not get those pretty little Christmas stockings. We got large socks. And sometimes we just got bags. And and as I recall, we got a lot of brown bags. And they were stapled at the top or just folded over and held in place. And in those bags, you got fruit, a couple of pieces of candy, and a lot of walnuts, peanuts, and all that stuff in it. That's what you got in a stocking or a brown paper bag stocking. And our names were on it. So we knew which bag belonged to whom. And we loved it. We never complained about it. We were only excited about what was in the bag. I think in today's society, everybody is spoiled and they're trying to outdo one another by, oh, look at this and look at that. No, there's no need for that. There's no need to throw money in the trash. And that's what you do. When you go out and pay somebody money to make you a cup of coffee, as I always talk about my coffee because I love coffee. When you pay somebody to make your coffee, you're throwing money out the door. When you can make a cup of Folgers coffee, instant coffee, or ground coffee at home for pennies on the dollar. That's how you save. My mom, in the house that we had at the time, we had the front yard. We did not have a big backyard. I have a big backyard now. Oh, I'm so happy about it. But we did not have it back then. And the front yard where you're supposed to plant flowers, well, she just extended it out a little bit. And she grew vegetables in the back planters and flowers in the front so nobody would notice. She didn't grow a lot because we could not afford a lot. But there's so many things that people struggled back in the Great Depression and they learned how to manipulate the situation they were in to survive those times. Now, my grandma, when she was with us, because most families in the Great Depression, they all moved back in together, and yes, it was crowded. A lot of people, a lot of noise. But they survived. We survived. I survived. And the thing is, everybody contributed to the home expenses. People learn to use their brain to come up with other ways of doing things differently. Instead of driving a vehicle, they walked, if it wasn't so far. They bicycled. They did trade. I have this item here, let's say sugar, but I will give you a cup of sugar in exchange for 2 cups of flour. And in a lot of cases, that person that needed the sugar would do that. They would make the trade. There are survival modes that are built inside of us. A lot of people just forgot them, or they just didn't bother to learn them. But when times get tough in America, as they are beginning to do, those survival modes are beginning to kick in. Now, if you have watched some of my previous videos out there, and I hope you do, America. Please click, like, subscribe, and leave questions, leave comments. I will answer your questions the best that I can to try and help you. The thing about it is that most people in the Great Depression struggled hard and survived. They even survived in the cold winters. The Great Depression just didn't start overnight. It gradually creeps up on you. The Great Depression of 29 did not start in 1929. It began in 1928. And in 1929 is when the impact was felt. This is why I say we are in the early days of a Great Depression Part 2 in America. And it won't just be America, it will be global. And Christmas is a big deal for kids. Birthdays are a big deal for kids. When I was a kid, and during the times of the Great Depression of my mother, we were lucky to get a cake. And there are so many recipes on baking a cake. There are different ways of making icing on a cake. But also during that time, a 12-year-old was allowed to go out and get a job during the Great Depression. I met a lady back in California. She was smoking at the age of 10. That was legal back then. I was shocked. Nobody really monitored anyone. That's why we had so many different types of famines that took place over the centuries. The Black Plague, wars, and other things that affected people physically and mentally. People didn't realize at that time that science was at the beginning stages of helping you with viruses, diseases. And then vaccines were developed. And you may think that was all the way back in 1929. No. Oh, so many people were born and they had polio and they struggled. And we have a vaccine for it in America. Unfortunately, under this administration, we have RFK Jr., the brainworm guy. I don't know if he ate the worm or if he developed the worm by eating dead animals off the street. I don't know. The guy's just gross. He is sick mentally. And just by looking at him, I kind of think physically too. He's just gross looking. He wants to end these vaccines. He's telling you that they are bad for you. They're not. After the Great Depression, scientists, doctors, physicians, they all came together and they worked together to help humanity. And today we have an administration trying to destroy it all. We have a government not representing the people, only representing themselves and what they can get out of the people. And yet, we are approaching another Great Depression due to this government. And it's going to be bad. You can invest in gold. You can invest in silver. You can do whatever you want. But as I stated before, if you're hungry and you paid $4,000 for a trinket of gold at Costco and you don't even know if it's real gold, it could just be gold plated. But a can of soup is going to cost you that little trinket. Back in the Great Depression, people sold cars, automobiles for $100 just so they could eat, to feed their family. Pay off their debts. There are so many ways that people learn. They were forced to go into survival mode during the Great Depression era of 29. And one of the things they learned to do was to cook differently, eat differently. They were forced to save whatever they could to make it through another day. Some of the recipes that I grew up on, and my mother taught me, and my grandmother taught me as well. One of my favorites was cabbage soup. Have you ever tried it? Oh, it is delicious. One of the best soups ever. And I still make it today. And I am going to share to you my recipe of cabbage soup. And no, cabbage soup isn't throwing a head of cabbage into a pot of water and boil it. It's not that simple, but it's easy to make. What I do is I take a head of cabbage. I dice it up. I rinse it off and clean it up. And I will take a pot of water. And I always get a bigger pot. I always like big pots for one head of cabbage, because I can throw other stuff in it if I need it to. And I don't want it boiling over. And the aroma when you're cooking, it just goes through the house. And it smells so delicious. And what I would do is I would chop it up and into pretty medium size, not terribly small little pieces, because cabbage is going to shrink down. But in the boiling water, I always added a little bouillon cube. I prefer chicken, and sometimes I would add a beef cube to it. I would dice up an onion and throw it in there too. and I would let it boil slowly. I would add a little bit of pepper, some other seasonings of your choice that you like, but I generally use pepper, some salt, and I would also throw in a little bit of garlic, ground garlic. It's a powder and kind of like garlic salt. And just to give it a little kick, and a little bit of cayenne pepper to spice it up a little. I like a little spice to my food. And I will take a brat, or I will take a hot dog, a couple of hot dogs. Because in the Great Depression, you're lucky if you could get a good package of hot dogs. Excuse me. And excuse me for a second. Now the hot dog, before I put it in with the cabbage, I would take and I would slice it up and dice it up into reasonable little chunks. Or the same with a brat. And I would stir fry it up in a skillet with a little bit of bacon grease. And I would add onions to it. And it is just really good. And the once the cabbage was done, and it's going to cook for a few hours, the cabbage, I always turn it on low and let it simmer. And once it comes to a complete boil, and after that, you know, the water in the pot is going to evaporate to a degree, and then I will throw in the hot dogs or the brat that's been diced up with the onions into it. And when I served it, I always made biscuits. I love my honey butter biscuits, and so does my husband. And we literally make them from scratch. They're so simple to make. And if you want to learn how to make them easy, America, go on YouTube and look out how easy it is to make a biscuit. They're so easy to do. And they're actually better than those that you get in those little containers, Pillsbury biscuits. They're actually better than those. They don't look perfect. I suggest they have character when they're baked. And the thing is, I love to add a little bit of butter when I cut them open and a little bit of honey to it. And it's great. Now back to the cabbage soup. Once it's done, you just get yourself a good bowl and a strainer, and you're going a ladle that has a mesh design to it, and you scoop out the cabbage and you put it in the bowl, and then you get a different ladle and you take out some of the broth and you pour it into the bowl. And it is really good with biscuits and honey butter. It is just really good. And that was a meal back in the Great Depression era. People had to learn to do things differently, had to learn to cook differently. And I enjoy a lot of those recipes. And I think you will too. And some of the other recipes I will be bringing to you are so simple and yet so delicious. A lot of people just got used to convenient food and forgot about how easy it is to really cook on the dime. You don't have to go out and eat and throw your money out the door. Every once in a while, it's nice to go out and eat. But you can make food at home, and it's just as delicious and rewarding, especially when you make it, because you put your own heart and soul into making your own meal. And it feels good, especially when you have family with you and you're all sitting around together having conversations and enjoying a hearty meal that does not have to cost a lot of money. And if you've made cabbage soup, you know what I'm talking about when you smell the aroma going through your home. It just smells so good. And it's very delicious and nutritious for you too. God bless all of you, and I wish everyone well. I hope I'm wrong and we do not end up in another Great Depression. But sadly, in my opinion, we are now in the early days of another Great Depression. Please click like, subscribe, and share with others. God bless all of you. Bye-bye.